Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's another day on the Toyota. So what I got planned for today is I want to fab up some engine mounts, or at least get a basic knowledge and idea of what we're going to try and do for an engine mount. And also I'm going to mess with that core support, see if I can get that thing to fit a little better in the back of the truck. I'm pretty sure I made the executive decision to go ahead and put the radiator in the back. For several reasons, but anyhow, that's what the goal is for to try and get done in this video. It may take a couple days. I got to go to work here in about an hour and a half, so I'm gonna try and get as much done as I can today. As far as the engine mounts, we've already established how we're going to go about them. What we got here is a leaf spring bushing. I believe it's off of these are Trail Gear, I think. Front leaf spring bushings. They should be plenty strong enough to handle the amount of torque and whatnot that the engine is going to put on there. And as you can see, it just slides into a metal tube, right? And then what we're going to do is put this metal tube inside of there, and then run a bolt through it, and that should handle it. And then I'll basically build two ears straight up and down with a bolt in there, and then I will attach this to a plate that goes to the engine block. So just to kind of give you I'll obviously video all the stuff we're going to do, but that's just kind of a where we've gotten so far. And so I think probably what I'll do now is we'll focus on the radiator and see what I can do about getting that thing into a happy spot, and that way I can kind of tackle a bunch of stuff. I'm going to kind of peck around this thing. I'd like, unfortunately I'm not going to be able to do it system by system. I'd like to just do all the wiring right off the bat, but I'm just going to kind of go here and there as I can. I'm waiting for parts to show up. I'm waiting for several things. So I'm just going to try and do what I can with what I have available, and I'll go from there. So anyhow, enjoy. Okay, so the idea I have anyway is, well, let's get the camera centered here a little better. So the idea I have is I want to build a bracket for this to set into. Nicely, there's bolts here, so I'm hoping I can build a bracket off of this that I can just bolt this thing straight into, and should be as simple as that. Maybe. But I think that, I think that'll work just fine. Because this is essentially the body of the car, and it's super duper strong. And of course I'll clean all this stuff up. I just didn't want to cut too much off right off the bat. I think that'll work. If I set it down in here a little bit, I can run the radiator hose like I showed in the last video up under here. Get it out of harm's way, and then use some stretch metal across the front to protect the radiator. That way if I throw firewood or stuff in the back here, it doesn't hurt this. And yeah. The only problem is that the fan's backwards. Huh. So let's flip it around. Well, I think I like that a lot better. That way, air's still coming in from here and there and across the top. So if I set the radiator right in the middle here, that should give it plenty of air, like driving down the road, to keep it cool. And that should work just freaking great. Then I can purge all this off, and I still have my bolts right here that I can still make a bracket off of. And yeah, still retain all the factory mounts and all that. I have the fan switch and the wiring harness for the computer. And I already, as you saw in the last video, I already found out what plugs those go to on the computer to trigger the fans. Cool. I just gotta remember what the hell I did with the wiring harness that goes to the fans. All right. Pretty cool. All right. I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. Because then I can just run the pipe right to here, and then this can go straight across and down there. Not a huge deal. Just got to get some 90s and run some pipe. I've already done a lot of research on forums and YouTube and whatnot to see how everybody else has done it. This is a really common thing to do in drift cars. A lot of guys do that. The only thing I don't know, and I've looked up everywhere, if any of you guys know, if you can leave a comment below, is if the factory 2JZ water pump has enough gallons per minute flow to go all the way back here and through. I think you need like 35 gallons per minute or something like that, or 3.5. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's the minimum. So worst case scenario, may have to get a pusher pump or a puller pump, electric one, if it is in fact too far away to, because I don't want the coolant to slow down so much that it overheats, because it can do that too if it loses its pressure going back to the motor. So I'm going to do a little more research, but like I said, if you guys have any ideas, please let me know. All right, awesome. I'm really liking how that's looking. Fantastic. All right, well, I did a little fumbling with the wiring. I was trying to incorporate the computer to trigger the fans and all that, but I think realistically I'm just going to have its own standalone setup. So I'm pretty happy with where it's sitting right here. As you can see, I got it down on that bar below the bed. So what I got to do is, I'm obviously going to clean this up a little bit. It's not just going to look like that, but at least I can hard mount all this in there. And what I'm going to do is, this is the coolant temperature, or the radiator fan temperature switch. It's basically just an on-off switch. When it gets hot, it creates a connection. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this straight to a relay, and then I'll have the relay send power to the fans to kick them on whenever that tells it to. I think that'd be a lot simpler. The way they ran the relays, it's a little confusing, and not to mention it's a lot of wires. It's not just a straightforward 4-pin relay. There's quite a bit of wires going to it. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So at least we're going to run with that for a minute and see how it works. So anyhow, I got to go to work, but at least I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a little more stuff I figured out here. I really like this idea. I think this is going to work out terrific. Since this thing's not a race car, and it does a lot of idling, I don't foresee there being any problem with it. You know, I don't go that fast anyway, so I can't imagine it being any different putting this back here than having it in the front. If anything, it's going to dissipate heat better without the engine and the heat and the hood holding the heat and everything in. So anyhow, that's that for that. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for today. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do is we'll get back to it. I'm going to try and fabricate this a little better. I'm going to take the radiator out of the support and carve it up and see if I can make some brackets and get this thing hard mounted in there and get that figured out. I kind of been tiptoeing around doing the engine mounts because I got to figure out a way to hold the engine up and keep it square. Or find a way to hold it up, period, while I fabricate them, because what I'm going to do is take the ones off the block and use them as a template. So maybe we'll try and figure out something like that tomorrow. But anyhow, we'll get back at it tomorrow.